Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Thursday, September 22nd, 2022. And we're going to be talking about a little bit real quick about the Toledo game from this past weekend. And then we'll be getting into Wisconsin pretty heavy. So
we got the first day of fall here, right?
yeah, first day of fall is
fall
here.
means football.
Yeah.
Fall means cold.
Funny the day
fall means pumpkin.
The day it turns fall, we go from, it was almost 90, I think, close to yesterday.
It was close to 90 degrees yesterday.
I mean, I know I mowed yesterday and it was very hot and humid. It felt like out there, and then like 60 something degrees today. So that is Ohio for you. So
yeah. I mean, you bounce around this time of year. It'll be back in the 80s at some point next week.
Yeah. All right. So Toledo, not going to spend a lot of time on it. I mean, Buckeyes won huge 77-21. I mean, they looked unbelievable on offense. There was every week, the first 2 weeks, it was like, they had like good marks, and then there was some 3 and outs that you just couldn't explain. It seemed like the offense was getting ready to break out, and then you get a 3 and out, and then it was kind of like, duddish. I mean, nothing crazy to be concerned about on that, but you got it basically all this week. They were running the ball very well. That opened up the passing lanes, and they just torched Toledo when it came to throwing the ball. Everybody basically got involved. Even JSN, he played, but I mean, he was basically a decoy, and Toledo had double coverage on him the whole time. And Marv Harrison, who is now, what is it? He's got 5 touchdowns against single coverage and like 500 something yards. It feels like that. I mean, it's
200 something yards, but
it's ridiculous.
It's a lot though. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know how you're going to keep that guy in single coverage. And then,
you're never going to win. I mean, you're not going to beat Marv Harrison Jr. in a single coverage.
And then, Jackson Smith will be back. And actually, I mean, who are they? Buckeye had a big game. Kate Stover had a big game. Fleming had a big game. Ballard comes in later, has a big game. I mean, they were all over these guys. And I don't know going forward, especially now with Stover getting involved in the game. I mean, how do you even defend this offense? Is getting more and more ridiculous by the day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Stover, you bring him up, so we'll hit on that first. I mean, you talk about, we've had a lot of good tight ends here. I think Joe, I really do think he took his route running very seriously. Like, he might be the most athletic and just complete skill set tight end that we've had.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy. Like Jeff Hireman, Nick Vanette, was it Marcus Ball? I can't think of his name.
Yep.
Ruckert, Farrell, Hauserman, all those guys. And I think he's better than them.
Yeah.
And I know it's a small sample size, but man, he looks good.
I mean, he's already got, 3 30-yard plus, receptions this year. I mean, that's the most since Harmon's been here that they've had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's no, it's just really ridiculous. And, it's like I heard one of the podcasts I was listening to this week, and they were something that, Wilson kind of told him. I don't think Wilson actually said it to like in the media, but it was something that, Jim just talking and, either at practice or, just off of the side somewhere. But it's like, make the quarterback not want it to throw it to the, to the receivers.
Right.
And that's like, he's getting open, and it also shows like, Stroud's just very mature right now. And he's just, he's seeing the whole field. And when these guys get open, he's ready he's coming on, on his, he's finding his look downs, and he's going to second, third, and fourth guys, and he's having time. So that means the offensive line's, blocking unbelievably.
Yeah.
And so that kind of just shows because, I mean, the tight end is not your first guy in any route, in any passing thing, with a few exceptions in different things that they probably do for him in certain situations. But so, the offensive line, I mean, we're seeing it and, watching the games, but now that just kind of like legitimizes that. Yeah, they must be blocking really, really good in the pass game because he's finding all these guys.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with that. The one I also want to think about, I want to give props to like Julian Fleming, Jaden Ballard. Fleming came back really strong, had 2 touchdowns, looked good. Jaden Ballard's number was called and he delivered with it. So, you can only be impressed with those guys. Ryan Day is a play caller, though. That's kind of felt, and I know it's Toledo, kind of felt to me like 2019 did, though, that Ryan Day was starting again to bring out different formations and running a varied offense from one formation. It wasn't like, hey, they're all over here now. They're all over here now. They're all over, they're doing all these different things. He ran like 23 personnel and he ran a pass out of it. He ran a jet sweep out of it with Buckeye lined up as a tight end. He ran, just a fullback dive. So yeah, he was doing things from one look, so many varied things that you don't see a lot of guys do. And it felt like 2019 because that's what like his kind of calling card was this varied offense out of one look. You can do so many different things from one formation. And I like that he's getting that back. And I think that gives the offensive line a ton of confidence.
Well, they did that fake toss where they hit Stover.
I'm sure it wasn't because of Notre Dame, but thank you, Notre Dame, for that idea.
Yeah. No, I think that he's looking really, really good, as a play caller right now. And and kind of the segue to the other part of the team, I think this is because he's got much more confidence in the defense than he's had in the last couple of years. So he can kind of do some of the creative stuff. He had he had a defensive head coach, then in 2019. He has one again. And so moving on to the defensive side of the ball, I mean, they finally got some turnovers. They were hitting the quarterback. They're getting tackled for losses still, and that Finn, I mean, he's going to end up being on another team next year. I mean, he's not staying at Toledo. That was those type of quarterbacks. They give Alabama fits. They will give Georgia fits. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to beat them and that he's going to win the game, but that's what happens when you have mobile quarterbacks. And I think, some people get like, oh my God, he's running all over him. Like, well, I mean, he's athletic and stuff. And
I wasn't necessarily concerned with what he did to the defense. My only thing that like irked me about the whole thing was just being undisciplined going after him. Like there was a lot of ends that they just went straight up field or they made really poor attempts to tackle him. Like, let him come to you. You don't be overly aggressive there. Like you got the guy running back on his heels. I think he had an arm. He had he had that first touchdown pass, but I don't think he has extraordinary accuracy, especially when he's moving around like that. So you don't got to rush that stuff,
Yeah, and I think and Knowles kind of talked about this a little bit in his press conference, is that he said, he got the guys off the feet, hit their feet a little bit and stuff like that. So you just got to kind of stay within yourself, and we'll see a couple quarterbacks that can do some stuff still with their feet. I think the big one that comes to mind that's probably going to be the most like this kid is JJ McCarthy, and I think he's a better passer than him. So that's something the Buckeyes at the end of the year is really going to have to really watch out for, because not only you get a guy that could, move the ball with his feet, but he's a more accurate and better passer down the field. But Clifford can do some stuff with his feet. I'm pretty sure little Tua can do some stuff with his feet. And
how disrespectful!
I can never remember his name, so little Tua is what he gets.
Yeah, I get it.
So, and then I don't really know much more on the rest of the schedule. I'm not really sure. I know what we're playing this week, which we'll get to in a second. Mertz is not one of those guys. He's a statue. So this is now a situation that would be a situation, try to get them out of their running game as quick as possible, because, then they could really tee off on him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's not what he's known for. So things that gave them problems in this game, won't necessarily give them problems against Wisconsin. But I'm still, a little concerned about Denzel Burke also. I know actually corners in general. I mean, they've like,
The health issues are starting to kind of feel.
and it just feels like, honestly, in coverage, it feels like they're getting kind of like bodied by bigger guys. And I know that happens, but it just feels like they're losing a lot of jump balls.
Yeah. Yeah. The one touchdown pass where, I mean, again, he scrambles, he makes a hell of a play. I mean, Eichenberg hits him, but it's, it's just 1 second or half a second too late. And, the guy got in front of Burke and, boxed him out, and it was a jump ball and he got it. It's like basically it was a Hail Mary jump ball. But they, I mean, with the style,
you should have tackled him.
Yeah. With the style of defense, and that's probably the bigger issue is that, he does just a bad looking tackle that, doesn't do anything. And the guy scores. I mean, yeah, the catch was about the 3 yard line, 4 yard line or whatever. So, I mean, you just let him pretty much just turn around and walk in,
right?
Because you do just a lousy tackle.
Yeah. That was my biggest concern about that.
Yeah. And then, I think everything else is, you're going to give up plays in this defense. And I don't even think Day is necessarily concerned about that. He just doesn't want to give up play after play after play, or like last year's defense where they necessarily didn't give up big plays. They let teams just like, slowly, methodically, go down the field on them. How much last year?
Yeah.
And, I think Day is like, I think his thought process is that they're going to make big plays as a defense. They're going to have a bunch of 3 and outs, and they might give up a touchdown or 2 here and there because, they're being over aggressive. But with his type of offense, I don't think he's too concerned about that, because it's like, I just have to be an aggressive play caller back and you just go get your points back. And
right.
So, and I think, and Knowles says he wants the team to be more disciplined and stuff like that. So he gets it too, that, they need still to fix up some stuff, but it's a completely new defense that they're still learning. So,
yep. Yeah. I mean, all in all, you won 77-21. So
yeah,
it's real hard to find things to nitpick about, especially when the game was like 49-14 at one point. So It was never close after 7-7.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's turn the page on Toledo. We'll move into Wisconsin. You talked about, we're going to just real quick, some lingering concerns and stuff like that. You talked a little bit about your thoughts on the secondary. I have some of the same concerns about the corners, just because, essentially there's some injuries there. And that seems like the biggest question mark coming into this week is the injuries especially with the corners. But I think the biggest thing, this is going to be the first opportunity, is to me, and it's not necessarily a concern because they've not done anything to give me a concern, but it's like, is the 2 linebacker set? Is this is where the week we find out?
Yeah, I mean, this is the measuring stick.
That, Notre Dame to me answered the toughness part, that they're back to being Ohio State tough defense against the run. Now this is the thing that says, does the 4-2-5, can this work against a power offense that is a competent, efficient power offense? This is, maybe next year Notre Dame will be kind of back to this, but this is Wisconsin's bread and butter. They got a big power back there again. So, I mean, what they're going to be doing, and there's no secret about anything that Wisconsin does. So it's going to be like, is it time? Can they play against this style of offense? Because then it just kind of like, because if they have some issues with it, well, that's going to light up Michigan State's eyes. It's going to light up Penn State's eyes. It's going to light up Michigan's eyes. It'll be like, all right, we have now a game plan going up against the Buckeyes, because those deficiencies against power running football that they had last year possibly still there.
Right. Might not be fixed. Yeah, I mean, that's my biggest question mark right now is, and toughness kind of rolls into it. Again, I think we're like you do. I think we're tough, but are we ready to, stop a team that's committed to, run all over us?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we're going to see how it goes. I was looking into the game a little bit more closely, just to kind of give season stats and what's going on. So, I didn't write down Ohio State season stats because I don't think they're really necessary right now. I mean, everyone knows what we've been doing. Wisconsin currently sits 2-1. They beat Illinois State 38-0. Lost to Washington State 17-14 at home, which is crazy that Wisconsin lost to Washington State. and beat New Mexico State 66-7. So the Washington State game, I mean, I know that is the only one against another Power 5 team. They lost it. Revisiting that game, though, they really should have won that game. They just made a lot of mental errors in that. So far this year, Ohio State's offense is averaging 47.7 points per game. Wisconsin's averaging 33.3. So Buckeyes are about a touchdown better than them. Yards per game, Ohio State's gaining 565, 358 through the air, 207 on the ground. Wisconsin 478, so not a shabby number. Of course, again, got to look at the competition both teams have played. 260 in the air, 218 on the ground. So not much more than the Buckeyes are doing on the ground. You're talking about 10 yards more. Defensively, Buckeyes are giving up 14 a game. Wisconsin's giving up 8, so about a touchdown. Yards per game, not too much. Ohio State's giving up 278, Wisconsin 246. So that's about a 32 yard per game difference. Buckeyes are giving up 194 in the air, 84 on the ground. Wisconsin's 170 average in the air, 76 on the ground. So I think very comparable. And I'm not too worried about giving up, a few more passing yards than they are, because I don't think they're a dynamic passing team. Like Graham Mertz, even when he's on his best game, I just don't see him going over, 300, 350, 400 yards, whatever it may be. I don't think it would ever be that type of game from Wisconsin. Just drilling down real quick to their difference makers on their team. Graham Mertz is throwing at a 71% completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 11.2 yards per catch or per pass for him, per completion, excuse me. Braylon Allen, their big running back, you touched on him, 332 yards, 6.5 yards per carry average. So he's a big boy, 5 touchdowns. Their second running back, Malusi, 163 yards, 4.7 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. And then as far as receivers, not a ton of receiving stats. Like Kymir Dyke, I think his name is, 9 receptions, 172 yards. So that's 19 yards per catch, but it's only 9 receptions and 1 touchdown. And then, of course, in Wisconsin fashion, they got a pretty stellar tight end, Clay Cundiff, 8 receptions, 139 yards, 2 TDs on the year. That's 17.4 per catch. Defense, I just want to outline a couple things. Nick Herbig, he's a linebacker, 4 sacks. You know how Jim Leonard loves to get his sacks from the linebacker position. And then as a defense, they have 7 interceptions on the year. Couple interesting facts about them. They do not have a sack out of their defensive line yet. Mm-hmm. And with the 7 interceptions, and I'm not sure who's all accounted for what, I didn't look all of that up, but they do have 3 injured defensive backs, projected starters. I think 1 or 2 actually were out from the beginning, like preseason got hurt, but then they lost another one. So they are down 3 projected starters against Ohio State in their secondary, which against Ohio State's offense, never a good thing.
No, definitely not. I think just going off of some of that stuff, it's just, I think, and we'll get a little bit more into this here as we move on to the next thing about, different things that we're projecting with players and stuff like that. But I think the biggest things for Ohio State is that offensively, you got to just over the last several years, it's been a long time since Wisconsin's beat them. The games where Ohio State, they get their athleticism going, they usually don't have. Now, you don't get a lot of 2014s in there where they just outright just blow them out. But like even in 2019, that first game, they kicked their butt, and the athleticism got going.
It took a while to get going, but once it did, my goodness.
And there's been a few games like that when they get going athletically, Wisconsin just doesn't have the horses that keep up with them. But when they let Wisconsin be able to, like in the championship game of that year, when Wisconsin can kind of, stay in the game using their ball control, different things like that, it takes a little longer. So I think the biggest thing offensively for Ohio State is just start scoring on them. And just if you get up on Wisconsin, it's just going to be the same thing all over again. Wisconsin's not built to come back by, they're not really built to come back by, I would say, a 2 touchdown lead. They're definitely not built to come back from a 3 touchdown lead. So, just get up on them, or a 3 score lead, whatever. And, they're not built that way. And as long as you're not, throwing turnovers and different things like that, where they get a couple, a special team score or a defensive score in there where, where their offense is not having to do something. And defensively, it's just like we just were kind of talking about. It's this making sure that, where Ohio State at different times, all teams get wins. When Wisconsin's in front of the sticks and stuff like that, they are just so lethal offensively.
They got so much that they can do.
It's like, they're not looking for first down on the first down play. Their offense is built to, they want to be at 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, every freaking play.
Yeah. Extend drives, bleed clock.
And, that's what they're looking for.
End it with a touchdown.
I mean, we saw, I remember back in 2010, but different times over the last few years too, that, when Wisconsin gets to, when you're facing them a lot with 3rd and 2s and stuff like that, it's almost a guaranteed first down. It's like JT Barrett running for a first down. Whenever they were in that short yardage, you knew he was always getting it. The same thing with any Wisconsin running back.
It wasn't only them. I mean, they pull out jet sweeps then in that situation. They mess around with different stuff. I mean, it's not just, run up the center's butt and, run over everybody on the defensive line. I mean, they'll pull out, tricks when they're at 3 and 2. Yeah. And I can't remember how many jet sweeps they hit in that 2010 game. It feels like they got like 5 first downs off of a jet sweep.
Yeah. So they're always playing for, their first down run. They're always looking for a, 4-yard, 5-yard run on first downs. And, if you give those up the majority of the game, this game is going to be a little bit more difficult because, that just keeps them in front of the sticks. And that's Wisconsin football.
Yeah. I mean, I think the most important part about that for me is that then goes on to the coaching staff, and Ryan Day just can't lose himself and can't, press things. Like, you're starting to build a physical identity. Like, from different heavy formations that you are able to pick up yardage, that you've actually kind of excelled at picking up short yardage when, you're running with 2 tight end looks this year.
Yeah.
So just don't get too much into your own head. If, you struggle on one series, Wisconsin scores, whatever. Don't just think you got to go immediately to a pass game and get yourself out of whack. Just keep to your game plan, keep to your numbers, and I think you'll be able to figure it out just fine.
Yeah. And I know this is just week 4, but I think that probably something that's going for, unlike, we talked about the 2 linebacker set and stuff like that. And, going up against, you don't want it to turn into last year's Michigan game. But I think after, 4 weeks, the 3 weeks of Jim Knowles, and this is week 4, that, he makes great adjustments, but you also know right now he's got a game plan in the back of his head.
Yeah.
They've practiced some other stuff this week. If that means they need to bring Court Williams in to bring a bigger safety in, or possibly even go to a 3 linebacker set, or who knows, we've heard a couple different things that they might be practicing some other different types of fronts and stuff with the defensive line to get another big guy out there. I mean, there's going to be something he's got in the back of his head that, if they are going too easily against us, we're going immediately to this. And so, I mean, that's just the type of coach he is. So I think, as long as, again, Day just needs to kind of realize that, trust Knowles and, just stay aggressive yourself on offense and, force Wisconsin to try to play with your athletes. So, I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Okay.
All right. So offensively, let's go through what we think of the, our MVPs and our breakout players and our, what our bold predictions going to be.
Real quick before we go into that, what do you think defensively? What's Leonard going to do? Is he going to play? Is he going to take the Notre Dame Northwestern playbook, or is he going to kind of do what he normally does and like blitz his linebackers and
I think
be a little bit more aggressive?
I think what he's going to do is he's going to take the Notre Dame playbook, but I think he's going to try to mix in a little bit more pressure out of it. And, but he's going to find his spots. And I think he's going to try to be kind of methodical with that, he's going to force, Ohio State needs to run the ball. He's going to force, Stroud to make underneath throws. And then whether it's second down or third down, I think will throw a blitz here and there and there to try to keep Stroud a little confused.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think he's going to have to be a little bit more exotic than he's been in the past. I mean, he does like to bring like delayed blitzes. I do remember that from when we've played them. So that might be his route that he has to take. Just Stroud is so fast processing and he sees that stuff a lot of pre-snap stuff. Like you can't give him too many blitz looks because he does notice that stuff right away. And I think Luke Whippler notices it right away too. So you got to do a lot of post-snap type action on him to be successful.
And he proved last week that he is willing to take off if he needs to, but he's proved the whole year that he's actually been very, very good at escaping blitzes.
Yeah.
And that
he extends plays.
Well, his extending of plays, these rollouts and stuff like that. I mean, he's been lethal on them. I mean, he's making everything on the sidelines right now.
Well, that's what I told you. Like we were talking in private. I mean, if these sideline throws, if they keep up, I mean, how are you going to stop this team that he can put it only where a receiver can catch it? And his receivers have just this sixth sense of where both feet are. I mean, all these catches have been NFL catches. Like it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been nuts.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with you. Because I don't know if Wisconsin, I mean, they might go with the more like passive route, just let Ohio State pretty much get them to the red zone and try to make them kick field goals. So they might be more so like the Northwestern game plan. I guess Notre Dame kind of did the same thing, but I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to see it. I think Leonard is just in his nature to be a little bit more aggressive, but he's a very smart defensive coordinator. So he'll come up with something, whether it works or not. I don't know, but he'll have a game plan for CJ Stroud.
I think the reason why I think that, and like you said, he's a smart defensive coordinator, where Ohio State has shown problems at times, it was with Ryan Day, it was when they forced Day to be a more patient play caller and that, and they want to be able to play ball control, but they also want Ohio State to be able to play ball control.
Yeah.
And when Ohio State gets into it's Toledo and I get that, but when we've seen it against good teams, when Ohio State gets into their groove with, it's 10-yard pass here, 5-yard run there,
Yeah, absolutely.
10-yard pass again, touchdown. Like it's like, and that's when they get into that groove, it's like they are almost unbeatable. And it's like, but if you make them take, drop a couple safeties and, Stroud's looking for the underneath guys and maybe they do a run and only gets a couple yards. When you start getting them out of their groove, it's like, sometimes they do get into their heads as a play calling and as an offense. And then that's kind of like where you take advantage of some of that stuff, then maybe throw a couple blitzes and stuff in through that. So I just think that that's probably the way they're going to do. Cause I just think that unless they are having a true typical Wisconsin offensive night where, they are really keeping Ohio State off the field, that like, if Knowles is still getting 3 and outs and stuff like that, and and they're having a hard time staying with Ohio State's receivers, like Wisconsin has no chance in that point in the game.
You're right.
So they will rip them apart. And so I just think that he needs to keep Ohio State kind of methodical too, because that's kind of where they start, they not necessarily mistakes, but they kind of start rushing a little too much.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, we'll see how it plays out. All right. So for me, offensive player of the game. Mine's going to be more so like his impact in the game than his final stats. Because I think this game could end up closer than what the line is. I'm going to say Cade Stover. I think Cade's going to have a big offensive play or two, to extend some drives, maybe even 3, possibly get in the end zone. I could see Cade getting a touchdown in this one. And I know that's kind of a odd choice considering all the athletes out there, but I think Cade Stover might have a really big impact in this game.
I think we've seen enough from the other receivers in the offense that Wisconsin's going to have a hard time figuring out how to play all of them together. So my guy he's back. I think Jackson Smith's going to have a huge game because if they're going to double him, you're going to get killed in other spots.
There's just no way. I mean, you can't put Marvin Harrison Jr. in single coverage. He is a freaking mismatch for everyone. He's faster. He's bigger. He can jump higher. He runs better routes. Like,
and he knows how to get his feet in.
Right. And there's just nothing you can do. You can't sacrifice that. But it's like the same thing with Jackson Smith and Jigba, though. You can't sacrifice putting him in single coverage either. They are going to move him around more. I like that pick. Hopefully he's healthy enough that he can be a big, big contributor.
I think, I thought he looked, he didn't really get anything thrown at him. I think he had one catch, maybe 2 catches in the last game. He basically played the first half. But I thought he was moving around pretty good. He didn't seem like he had still a little bit of a limp, but it wasn't like a noticeable limp like he did against Notre Dame. And I just think that, now it's ball time. They're going to try to get him the ball when they can get him the ball. And, if Wisconsin's stupid enough to try to put a double after those last couple of weeks, if you're stupid enough to try to double him up, then, you basically deserve what you got coming to you because, Harrison and Abuka are going to rip them apart.
Yeah, I agree. Breakout player of the game. I'm going to do another odd one here. I'm going to say Luke Whippler. I think he's going to do an excellent job picking up Jim Leonard's blitzes. I think there were times last year where Luke not necessarily struggled, but I won't say he was like the weak link on the offensive line, but there were times that he was the new guy on the offensive line, and you could tell. And especially, in some of those primetime games as also, but I think Luke from what I've heard this week, the guy watches film religiously. So he knows what he's seeing when he watches these teams. He's gotten, huge in the off season. So yeah, I think he's definitely my guy that I think he's going to be the one that he's going to see where all these blitzes are coming from, see what's happening. He's going to pick everything up. I expect a really big game from the center.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go with offensive lineman myself. I think, he's had some issues in the past, including the Notre Dame game where he plays a better team. He makes mistakes. He's had 2 really good weeks in a row, and I think he's going to push that into a 3rd week in a row. I think DeJuan Jones is going to have a really, really good game, and it's going to show everybody in the country that they have 2 legitimate tackles. And he made some mistakes against Notre Dame. He had some mistakes against some big teams last year, but the one thing I like about him that outside of Notre Dame this year, he hasn't had any false starts. So knock on wood that continues. He hasn't had any holds, and that was an issue last year, but he's been really, really good with not holding people this year.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the whole offensive line has been really, really good about not holding this year. I know. So I think he's going to have a really, really good game, and that's going to really and at that point, that's going to put a lot of pressure on Jim Leonard and the, defensive staff for Wisconsin, because if that offensive line is humming, again, just like the receivers, just like the running backs, when they're in their groove, it's very hard to beat them.
There's something special run blocking on that right side of the line. And and both lines, neither side is really a weakness, but like we talked about, preseason going through week 1, that they do the stretch plays too much, that it's just too predictable. I'll tell you what, when you get behind the Jones brothers on the right-hand side, like you use DeJuan Jones as your wall. Yeah. It's working pretty well for him. Yeah. He's Toledo, he was mauling people. He's just picking them up, taking them 10 yards downfield and then pancaking them.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been very impressed with DeJuan's run blocking, athleticism this year. So, yeah, definitely, I'd see where you're coming from.
Yeah. All right, bold prediction.
Bold prediction for the offense. I don't know if this is bold enough, but I'm going to say Mayan Williams and Trey Henderson both get over 100 yards. Hopefully Trey's healthy. And the caveat to that is Trey's not healthy, then Mayan and Dallin Hayden are both going over 100 yards.
My bold prediction for the offense, and not Toledo, so it's not going to be 800. I think they're going to have 600 yards total offense.
Not crazy.
Right in that ballpark. So let's say somewhere between 550 and 650. That's where they're going to end up finishing. That I think that once they get rolling, and it might take them a quarter, but they're going to get rolling in this game. And again, Wisconsin's not going to be able to keep up with that offense. So that's what I'm gonna say, that CJ Stroud is just seeing the field so well right now, and they're going to get the running game going. And yeah,
I see it. All right. Defensively, player of the game. I think in this game, you got to go with big old number 35, Tommy Eichenberg. I think he's just going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think he looks forward to, smashing heads with Braylon Allen all week long. I think he's going to, rise to the occasion, and he's going to be the man, and he'll have, I don't know how many tackles, but he'll lead the team, and he's going to have a great game.
No. No, I agree with that one. I think that that linebacker spot is a really, really big one. I think, the kind of go off that. I think, I'm going to say, I think Michael Hall, that I think he's going to be a big threat in that, that defensive line, he's going to get to Mertz, and he's also going to really be plugging up holes and, getting a lot of people some free shots. And that's the thing. You're going to make sure you got to get as many people to that kid as possible, because that's a power running back, and he's going to be able to, even Eichenberg, he's not a one-on-one, that kid's going to get his yards. But, I think that they're going to really play swarm football this week. And I think the defensive tackles are usually a big reason for swarm football, because they keep guards off of linebackers. And I think Michael Hall is going to have a big game.
I like that. That'll actually bring me to my next guy. So my breakout guy is going to be Tyleik Williams. I think he gained some confidence in the run stop game last week. I know this is a whole different beast. I mean, you can't even stress how much of a different offensive line this is going to be than what they saw last week. But he's a big dude. He's a quick dude. He's strong. We know he can tackle people. I think last week will go a long way. And I just think as the year keeps shaping up, that those are going to be your best two tackles. I think Teron Vincent's done pretty well this year. So I don't have too many complaints about him. I just think moving forward, when you start getting to these bulk of these teams and just the talent that is on your defensive line, I think Mike Hall and Tyleik Williams are your two best. And I think it's going to show this week. And I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah. I'm actually going with another defensive lineman on this one. I think Zach Harrison's going to have a big breakout game, because he is just so, you don't realize how underrated he is against the run. And I think he's going to really show up this week. He's going to be that other, I think that they could play him a lot at defensive tackle in this. And, he's a big dude, and kind of have JTT, him, and Mike Williams, Mike Hall, Tyleik Williams. And, and I think he's going to get a lot of tackles right there, because I think he's always impressed me in stopping the run. My only issue's ever been with him is I just wish he was just a step quicker to get the sacks, but he's never really had an issue really when somebody's trying to run at his side. If he's there, he's pretty good at making tackles, and I think he's going to have a big game because of that.
Okay. My bold prediction, it's hard to say because you never know you don't know who our starting cornerbacks are going to be right now. So I'm going to say whoever is on, the roster depth chart as cornerback 1 in this game is going to have 2 interceptions. I think it's going to be Cam Brown, but could be Denzel Burke, could be Jair Brown. I don't know. It could be a whole litany of other people. I think they're going to try to go, Wisconsin's been known. I don't know if they really have big receivers right now, but they usually have a pretty good athletic receiver. And I think Graham Mertz is going to get greedy a couple of times, and he's going to try to take out one of our cornerbacks. And then they're going to realize how good of coverage guys these really are. And someone's going to end up with 2 picks in this game.
How do you pronounce Wisconsin's running back's first name?
Braylon Allen?
Braylon Allen. Ohio State defense is going to be old-fashioned Ohio State defense. Braylon Allen, he might get to the century mark. He ain't going over the century mark.
I thought you were going to say 50.
No, it's going to be less. It's going to be 100 or less in Ohio State, it's not going to be a 50-point win, but they're going to win handily because of that. And so, yep, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. So that'll take us into Big Ten scores.
Yep.
All right. Tonight, Illinois versus Chattanooga. Chattanooga sits at 3-0, traveling over to Illinois. Illinois is a 21-point favorite. I don't like anyone in the Big Ten West, so I'll say Illinois wins, but they're not going to cover 21 points.
I don't know how you could give anybody in the Big Ten. I mean, Chattanooga might be able to win this game.
I mean, that's not even a joke. Like, you've seen some of these scores of the Big Ten West teams. They could win this game.
Like, Illinois will win, but it's not going to be by no 21 points. So
Maryland travels to Ann Arbor on Saturday. So we're in the noon games. Michigan is a 17-point favorite. I think this is a time that you're going to get to see if Maryland can test Michigan at all. See how, the Michigan secondary is doing. If they can get pressure on Talia Tagovailoa, but I do think Michigan's going to cover this score.
I think they're going to cover too. I think their big games coming in. They have a few more weeks till October 15th. I'm really interested to see what that Penn State Michigan game looks like in Ann Arbor, because I think Penn State answered a lot of questions for me from going on the road and beating Auburn last week. So I think that's going to be the game where we really see if Michigan is as good as they've been looking with this crap schedule lately. But I think they beat Maryland, and I think they beat them by the 17. I think they are over the 17. I think they cover.
All right, Penn State, Central Michigan's coming into town. Penn State's a 28-point favorite. Yeah, I mean, I think Penn State's beating up on bad competition this year, so I don't see any reason to go against it now. I think they'll win by their 4 scores. So I'll say they'll cover.
I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win handily, but Penn State's always notorious for having a big win or something, and then they kind of look like they're going through quicksand the next week. So I think that this game might be a little tighter in spots than some people think. So I'm going to say that they're not going to cover, but I could see them winning by 21.
Minnesota goes to East Lansing to play Michigan State, 3:30 game on BTN. I like this game. Minnesota's a 3-point favorite. I'm going to go. I think Minnesota, actually, they're not rated, so I can't say they're overrated. I think they've beaten up on some really bad teams this year. I'm going to go with the East in this one just because I don't trust the Big Ten West at all, but I could definitely see Minnesota winning this. Minnesota's a 3-point favorite. I'm going to say Michigan State's going to win outright at home.
No.
I don't think Michigan State's that tough anymore, to be honest with you. Like,
the thing, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think Minnesota, I'm interested.
And Minnesota kind of is tough.
I'm interested to see Wisconsin this week against us, because I think Minnesota might be the only legit team out in the West. I mean, Purdue maybe too. I can't remember. No, because they lost. Did they end up beating? No, they lost to Syracuse.
They lost to Syracuse.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Minnesota might be the only real team out there. So I think Minnesota's going to cover and beat them, or beat them and cover. I think.
So they'll win by more than 3.
I think they'll win by 7-10.
Okay. Indiana travels to Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 2-1. Cincinnati is a 16.5-point favorite over Indiana. Cincinnati is a 16.5-point favorite over Indiana. Indiana sits at 3-0. I think Cincinnati's going to win. I think Cincinnati's lost a lot over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to win by 16.5, but I do think they're going to beat Indiana in this game.
Yeah, I've definitely not been impressed with Indiana at all this year. I just think that
it's a really lucky 3-0.
Yeah. I think Cincinnati does win. I just don't see them covering, because you are right. They have lost a lot.
Yeah. Iowa travels to Piscataway. 2-1 Iowa against 3-0 Rutgers. Iowa is a 7.5-point favorite. I don't think Rutgers is going to win, even though it's home and it's a 7:00 game. I don't know what kind of juice they have going in Piscataway since Shiano's been back. Yeah. I don't know. I was so good at creating turnovers though, and I don't know what the fortitude of Rutgers is.
Yeah.
If they start getting punched in the mouth, I don't know how they answer to that. So you know what? I'm going to go out and say Iowa's going to cover this and they'll win by 10-14.
Rutgers upsets them.
Okay. I'm good with that.
I don't know. I'm just never impressed with never been impressed with Iowa's offense over the last couple of years. And, I just think that, I don't think Piscataway has no home field advantage by any stretch. There might be more Iowa fans there.
Right.
But I don't know. I got that feeling that, Iowa's been playing with fire this year. They already lost one. It just seems like, if it was a slightly better team that first week, they would have lost the first week too. So
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. They actually ended up beating Nevada pretty handily. It was 27-0, but
there was also they restarted that game at 1 o'clock in the morning. So
no one actually knows what happened in that game. I just looked it up.
I saw literally because there was no security anymore there. I literally saw somebody had their dog with them in the stands that they came out there to, they just decided to take their dog for a walk at 1 o'clock in the morning and took them in. And there's a person there with their dog. So
that's funny. Miami of Ohio against Northwestern, both sit 1-2. Northwestern's a 7.5 point favorite. Their home field. Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a MAC team. I don't know. I hate the Big Ten West, but I'm going to say Northwestern covers.
Yeah, I'll go with that too. I'm not. I don't really think Miami, even though they gave Cincinnati. They played Cincy last week. They gave them some fits parts of that game, but they I don't know. Miami. They're like one of those teams where you think could upset teams, but they've been kind of on a downward slide the last couple of years. That So yeah, I'll go with you on that one. Northwestern covers.
All right, Florida Atlantic against Purdue. Purdue's 17.5 point favorite. Yeah, why not? Sure. 7:30 game.
Yeah, I'll go with that one too.
All right, before we go to us, let's see if we got any good top 25 games. Clemson travels over to Wake Forest. Clemson is a 7-point favorite at noon. Yep, I'm going to say Clemson is going to cover that.
Yeah, Wake Forest is what right now?
21st. 3-0, 21st.
Yeah, I mean, Wake Forest has definitely been a lot better over the last few years, and they've been historically. It's just I don't know a lot about them. I just know that Clemson's defense is so tough, and they'll beat them by 7 just because I don't see Wake Forest being able to
keep it. Yeah, right. That's kind of where I'm at. Florida travels to Tennessee. 2-1 Florida against 3-0 Tennessee. This is the CBS 3:30 game. Tennessee will be rocking for that. Give me Florida. No, Tennessee's a 10.5 point favorite. I think Tennessee could win this game. I don't think they're going to win by 10.5, 11 points.
Yeah, I don't think they'll cover, but I hate to say this. I'm starting to become a little bit of a Tennessee believer. Like I've watched a little bit.
Good. Yeah, their offense is good. Heupel's a great coach. I was always confused why. I mean, I think Oklahoma's been fine, but why he didn't get a better look from Oklahoma, being that he was their national championship quarterback.
Yeah. I actually think they're going to win by like 7-10, but 10.5's the cover. I just don't think they'll cover.
Yeah. I don't see them winning by 11.
No. But I do see Tennessee winning. I actually kind of think that, because I'm pretty sure they're Bama's crossover in the East. I actually think that they're kind of like a dark horse. I'm starting to feel a dark horse because I've not been 100% impressed with Bama, that they might actually be able to beat Alabama. And I think that they're kind of the real deal. He's done pretty good with recruiting. He's probably been there. I mean, I know it's his second year there, that he's probably been the best coach they've had there in a while.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. I think Alabama has a weird stretch too, because it's like them, A&M, and Arkansas are kind of all lumped together. I think it's a bad 3 weeks for them, or 3 out of 4 weeks. They might have a bye in there. Speaking of those two teams, Arkansas travels to College Station. They're playing A&M. 3-0 Arkansas, ranked number 10 in the country. A&M is 2-1. A&M is a 2-point favorite. Arkansas is going to win this game outright.
Yeah, I think so too.
A&M's offense is just, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami didn't have, Gaddis wasn't their offensive coordinator. If Miami was another year into the Mario Cristobal regime, they would probably win that game.
Yeah.
So it was just a talent, difference. But neither team was, well coached, performed well. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, I think Arkansas will win this game. All right. This one I'm just kind of throwing out there just because of the past. So Oklahoma is playing Kansas State at 8:00. Kansas State's 2-1. Oklahoma's 3-0. Oklahoma is a 12.5 point favorite. Funny things happen in this game. They always have, even with Bob Stoops.
Who's the home team?
Oklahoma. And it's a night game. But you know what? I think Kansas State's going to play them closer than what this game is. And I think Oklahoma's going to win, but I think Kansas State will beat that 12.5-point spread.
Yeah. I think I think Oklahoma covers. The only
Oklahoma might be the real deal this year.
I just think that their offense is just a little different. I think Venables is trying to get them more to the, being really, really, really tough. And I just think that they're playing a little different than they've been in years past. And because they've always had really good running backs, but sometimes Lincoln and even Ba and Stoops, they would get they would start getting really, really challenged, and they would forget that they had a running game, and and they would just have way too many 3 and outs, and then they lose by just some bad team. And I don't think Venables is, even though they have an offensive play caller and stuff like that, I just think it's a different mindset that they're not gonna.
He doesn't play that game.
They're not necessarily gonna forget that they have running backs and stuff like that, and they're a pretty good rushing team. I mean, so I think they'll win.
You think they'll win by?
I think they'll cover
13.
Yeah, I think they'll cover, and I think they'll. I could see them winning by 3 touchdowns. I do. I think they're really, really good.
Okay. I'm actually going to throw one more out there just because the spread's kind of weird to me. Oregon State might be better than what I thought, but USC plays Oregon State. They travel over to Oregon State at 9:30. I know weird things happen Pac-12 after dark when they're, you're going to the visit or you're the visitor. Both teams stand at 3-0. USC is only a 6-point favorite in this game. I was expecting more. I don't know enough about Oregon State to think that they're going to, upset them. So I'm going to say USC covers.
Yeah, I think USC covers too, especially they only have to score 7.
It's the 7th ranked team against an unranked team, and I'm not ready to. They're a 6-point, even though I only think a 6-point favorite.
Even though I do think they're a dark horse to make the playoffs, and I've said USC could make the playoffs this year.
You predicted them to make the playoffs,
but I don't know if I'm okay with them being 7th yet. I'd like to see them a little bit more until I'm USC's back and stuff like that.
Right, I know. It's because I said OU and Clemson, I'm okay with them being, top 6 teams, whatever, because they've hovered around there.
Yeah.
Been very good for years, but USC, you're right. It's kind of like jumping the gun a little quickly just because they have a competent offense again.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm good. I think that can take us into our game. So
yeah, I'm good.
7:30 ABC in the shoe. We got Wisconsin Badgers coming in to play the Ohio State Buckeyes. Buckeyes currently sit at a 19-point favorite.
So they went on. It's always, so they opened at a 16, which that's where Vegas really feels this game is at. Ohio State fans are crazy, so they gamble.
The money has pushed it all the way up to a 19-point game because of last week's 77.
Yeah. I was feeling and I'm going to stay with it. I think Ohio State beats them 40-17.
So cover.
Yeah, they'll cover. I think Wisconsin probably has, I think it's going to be a 21-10 game going into halftime. I think Ohio State probably up 14-10. It's going to be one of those situations where they get the ball last and they go score, and then they get the ball to start the second half, and they score again. But I think they win 40-17. That's just kind of the way I was feeling it. That it's a tighter game than the last 2 weeks. But Ohio State's, I think, much more into their offense than they were in week 1. So as long as the defense is playing what I think the defense is capable of playing, then this is not a 21-10 game. This is, they were just going to score more.
Okay. So I was looking into the last 5 games. I know these are 2 totally different teams. Last 5 games, Big Ten title in 2019, Buckeyes win 34-21. October of 2019 in Columbus, Buckeyes win 38-7. 2017 Big Ten title game, Buckeyes win 27-21. 2016 over in Camp Randall, Buckeyes win 30-23. I believe it was in overtime.
Yeah, that one.
And then Big Ten title game in 2014, Buckeyes win 59-0. So, history's on the Buckeye side. It actually goes all the way back to 2010 was the last time. And so it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row. Ohio State's won. And they have scored points on them. Usually Wisconsin doesn't keep it too close. Within a touchdown only 2 of the times. So I was kind of bouncing around on this one because I do think I've been burned too much in the last 2 years saying they're done struggling against a bigger, more physical team and they're going to score their 40 points. So I'm going to play a little bit safer this time. I believe this too. I think Ohio State's going to win 27-13.
Um, the way I was approaching it, I just think they do feel a lot like that 2019 team. And I just kind of think that's where they're at.
And I could see it. I could see it, but I've been hurt too much over the last 2 years.
And that's just kind of where I'm at. That I just think that
notice I didn't say Trey Henderson was going to run for 200 yards.
Yeah.
It said 100. I don't even know if he's going to play. So hopefully he plays.
Yeah. No, but that's how I was going with it. But I could see it being a very closer game. I mean, I could see it being a 31-24, 31-21 game.
Yeah, I can see that too. All right. So after this game, what is the victory shot going to be this week? Elijah Craig, small batch. I like it. All right. Well, I don't got anything else to say, Mike.
I'm good too.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.